Top 1. The Nine Unknown Men. In 273 BCE, Emperor Ashoka of India surveyed the grim aftermath of the Kalinga War. Over 100,000 people lay dead, victims of his relentless military ambition. The sheer scale of the carnage horrified him. Consequently, Ashoka converted to Buddhism and made a solemn vow never again to use knowledge for the purpose of destruction. According to legend, he established the most secret organization in human history, the Nine Unknown Men. These 9 individuals were tasked with preserving humanity's most dangerous knowledge while ensuring it never fell into the wrong hands. Each member guarded a single book containing advanced secrets in specialized fields such as propaganda, physiology, microbiology, alchemy, communication, gravity, cosmology, and light. The society allegedly still exists today, operating in absolute secrecy with members replaced upon their death by carefully selected successors. No membership records exist, and no meetings are ever documented. The 9 Unknown Men leave no trace. The society's primary purpose was to prevent technological and scientific knowledge from being weaponized. Each book reportedly contained information far beyond what was publicly known in any era. The first book detailed propaganda and psychological warfare. The second covered human physiology and pressure points, capable of killing with a single touch. The third dealt with microbiology, supposedly containing knowledge about bacteria and viruses 2,000 years before Western science discovered them. The remaining books covered alchemy, communication, gravity and flying machines, cosmology, light as a weapon, and sociology. Historical records regarding the 9 are virtually non-existent, a fact that adherents claim proves their success. The first Western mention appeared in 1927 when Talbot Mundy, a British writer and former intelligence officer, published a book claiming it was based on real information. He wrote that the society had influenced world events throughout history by selectively releasing knowledge only when humanity was ready. Some researchers point to mysterious ancient Indian achievements as evidence, such as the non-corroding iron pillar of Delhi or Sanskrit texts describing flying machines and advanced weapons. Skeptics counter that human ingenuity provides a sufficient explanation. What makes the 9 Unknown Men unique is the complete absence of credible documentary evidence. Unlike other secret societies that left paper trails, the 9 allegedly maintain absolute operational security. No architectural sites are attributed to them, no financial records exist, and no former members have ever come forward. If the society exists, it has achieved what most secret organizations fail at, remaining completely secret. Modern conspiracy theorists connect them to nuclear proliferation prevention and suppressed free energy technology. Though none of these claims have supporting evidence, the 9 Unknown Men represent the ultimate secret society paradox. If they are real and successful, we should have no evidence of them. The absence of evidence becomes evidence of success. Whether the society exists or is purely legendary, it has influenced literature and conspiracy theories for nearly a century while leaving no verifiable historical footprint. They remain shadows in history books, whispers in esoteric circles, and ghosts in the machine of human knowledge, present in speculation but absent from documentation. Top 2. The Order of the Golden Dawn. In 1888, 3 Freemasons in London founded the Hermetic Order of the Golden Dawn, a secret society dedicated to occult magic, alchemy, and esoteric knowledge. Within a decade, the Golden Dawn attracted some of Britain's brightest minds, including poet W.B. Yeats, actress Florence Farr, and the infamous occultist Aleister Crowley. The society developed elaborate rituals and a complex hierarchy, claiming to possess ancient wisdom. At its peak, the Golden Dawn operated several temples across Britain with approximately 300 members. Then between 1900 and 1903, the society tore itself apart through internal conflicts and scandal. By 1903, the original order had effectively ceased to exist. What followed was a systematic erasure. Membership lists disappeared, and ritual documents were destroyed. Former members, even famous ones, rarely spoke about their involvement. The Golden Dawn became a ghost organization, its true history obscured by deliberate silence. The society's founding story itself is mysterious. The 3 founders claimed they had received a cipher manuscript containing ritual outlines written in code. They decoded it and made contact with a German adept named Anna Sprengel, who authorized the Golden Dawn's establishment. Modern researchers suspect Anna Sprengel never existed. Regardless, the Golden Dawn developed an impressive system of ceremonial magic, combining Kabbalah, tarot, astrology, and alchemy. Members progressed through grades from neophyte to adeptus minor, learning increasingly complex rituals at each level. The society's secrecy was intense. Members took oaths never to reveal teachings or acknowledge other members outside of ritual contexts. Meetings occurred in rented spaces that were magically consecrated and then returned to mundane use. No permanent temples were established, and communication happened through coded letters. These precautions worked for over a decade. The unraveling began with Aleister Crowley. He joined in 1898 and rapidly advanced through the grades. When senior members blocked his progression, Crowley attempted to seize the London Temple by force in 1900. The incident was absurd but damaging, exposing internal conflicts. The order's leadership splintered into competing factions. By 1903, the original organization had fragmented completely. What happened next is where the record becomes deliberately murky. Senior members apparently agreed that the Golden Dawn's secrets should remain secret. Membership rolls were destroyed. Members were released from their oaths but encouraged to remain silent. Ritual documents were either destroyed or carefully guarded. Even Yeats rarely mentioned the Golden Dawn in his writings. The erasure was remarkably successful. For decades, historians knew the Golden Dawn had existed, but had few details. Not until the 1970s, when Israel Regardie published the complete rituals, did the public gain access to the society's teachings. The original order's complete membership list has never been recovered. Senior members destroyed the central registry during the collapse. Individual temples may have kept local lists, but these were largely destroyed or lost. The Golden Dawn created a magical tradition and then systematically obscured its own role, leaving successors to rediscover techniques the order had developed a century earlier. One of the most influential occult organizations in Western history exists in the historical record primarily as gaps, shadows, and secondhand accounts. Top 3, the elect cohens. In 1754, Portuguese Jewish mystic Martinez de Pasquale founded the Order of Knight Masons, elect priests of the universe in France. The elect cohens practiced theurgy, ritual magic designed to invoke divine beings and achieve spiritual reintegration with God. The society attracted aristocrats and intellectuals across France, including Louis-Claude de Saint-Martin and Jean-Baptiste Willemoes, who would later found their own mystical orders. At its height, the elect cohens operated temples in Paris, Bordeaux, Marseille, and other cities. Then between 1774 and 1780, the order systematically dissolved itself. Martinez de Pasquale died in 1774, and without his leadership, the society fragmented. Members were released from their oaths and documents were destroyed. The elect cohens vanished so completely that for over a century, historians debated whether the organization had been real or legendary. The elect cohens' teachings were complex and carefully guarded. Martinez taught that humanity had fallen from divine grace and could achieve reintegration through ritual operations, invoking angels. The rituals were elaborate, involving precise geometric layouts, specific vestments, and lengthy invocations performed at astrologically determined times. Members progressed through grades, learning increasingly powerful operations. The highest degrees allegedly achieved direct divine communication and witnessed miraculous phenomena, such as apparitions of light, mysterious sounds, and written messages appearing on walls. The society's secrecy was multi-layered. Members took Masonic-style oaths never to reveal the order's existence. The most advanced rituals were never written down completely. Crucial elements were transmitted orally. The society operated within Freemasonry's framework, providing cover to outsiders. Elect Cohen temples appeared to be standard Masonic lodges. When Martinez departed for Saint-Domingue in 1772 to settle an inheritance dispute, he left the order under the direction of subordinates. He died there in 1774. His death created a leadership vacuum. Without Martinez's charismatic authority and detailed ritual knowledge, the order fragmented. Some members abandoned ritualism for interior mysticism, while others attempted to preserve the teachings by incorporating them into other Masonic systems. Between 1774 and 1780, a systematic dismantling occurred. Temples closed, and members were formally released from their obligations. Crucially, documents were destroyed. Martinez had kept a grimoire of ritual operations. After his death, this manuscript circulated among senior members, but disappeared within years. Historians believe it was deliberately destroyed to prevent corruption or misuse. The French Revolution, beginning in 1789, completed the erasure. Many elect Cohen members were aristocrats who fled, were imprisoned, or were executed. Revolutionary authorities suppressed mystical societies. Any remaining documents were likely destroyed during this period. For over a century, the elect Cohens were a historical ghost. Masonic historians knew something called the elect Cohens had existed, but had few details. Not until the early 20th century did researchers begin piecing together the order's history through scattered letters and ritual fragments. In 1899, a partial manuscript of Martinez's teachings was discovered and published, providing the first detailed look at elect Cohen doctrine. Modern scholars still debate basic facts. How many members were there? What exactly happened during the highest degree operations? The deliberate destruction of records means these questions may never be fully answered. Top 4. The Hashashin. Between approximately 1090 and 1275 CE, a mysterious sect known as the Hashashin operated from mountain fortresses in Persia and Syria. Led by Hassan Sabbah and his successors, the group allegedly specialized in political assassination. European crusaders brought back tales of fanatical assassins who struck without warning, willing to die for their cause. The hashashin became legendary, inspiring fear across the medieval world. Then, in 1275, the Mongols destroyed the hashashin fortresses and slaughtered the sect's members. The organization was annihilated, or was it? Some historians argue the hashashin, as described in Crusader chronicles, never existed as portrayed. That medieval Europeans sensationalized various groups into a boogeyman. Others suggest the hashashin survived in secret. What is certain is that the historical record is fragmentary, contradictory, and possibly deliberately obscured. The hashashin's documented history comes primarily from hostile sources. Sunni Muslim chroniclers who opposed the Nizari Ismaili branch of Islam, and Christian crusaders who feared them. The sect's own documents are almost entirely lost. The Mongol invasions destroyed the hashashin libraries at Alamut Fortress, burning books and scattering records. What little survived was further degraded over centuries. Our understanding comes from enemies and legends, not from the organization itself. Hassan Sabbah established Alamut Fortress in northern Persia in 1090. He broke from mainstream Ismaili leadership and created an independent movement. The Hashashin controlled a network of fortresses and used strategic assassination to influence politics despite limited military forces. Their targets included the Seljuk vizier Nizam al-Mulk, several caliphs, and crusader leaders. Assassinations were public and spectacular, designed to terrify. Assassins would strike in mosques and courts, often dying in the attempt. This willingness to accept certain death made them nearly impossible to defend against. European accounts, particularly Marco Polo's, added sensational details. Polo claimed Hassan drugged recruits with hashish, transported them to a secret garden of pleasures, and then told them they could return to paradise permanently if they died in his service. Modern historians largely discount this as Orientalist fantasy. The Mongols, expanding westward in the 13th century, viewed the Hashashin as a threat. In 1256, Hulagu Khan besieged Alamut. The fortress surrendered, and Hulagu executed the leadership and destroyed the library. By 1275, the organization had been militarily destroyed. But did it truly end? Some historians suggest that while military power was broken, the sect's teachings survived in hidden form. The Nizari Ismaili faith continued, re-emerging openly in the 19th century. Could the Hashashin's techniques have been preserved? There is no conclusive evidence. Later European groups claimed Hashashin lineage, though these claims are generally fantasy. Modern scholarship has worked to reconstruct accuracy, but critical gaps remain. We do not know the Hashashin's internal structure, true numbers, or how they selected assassins. The organization exists in history as a fragmentary collection of hostile accounts, legends, and speculation. Top 5. The Perfectists, the Illuminati. On May 1st, 1776, in Ingolstadt, Bavaria, law professor Adam Weishaupt founded the Order of the Illuminati. Weishaupt's goal was to create a network of enlightened individuals to combat superstition, religious influence, and government tyranny. The Illuminati recruited from Masonic lodges, attracting intellectuals and minor aristocrats. Within a decade, the order had between 2,000 and 3,000 members. Then from 1784 to 1785, the Bavarian government banned secret societies and launched a campaign against the Illuminati. Leaders were arrested and documents were seized and published. Members fled or renounced their involvement. By 1787, the Illuminati had been destroyed as an organized force. Weishaupt went into exile, and the order officially ceased to exist. What happened next was a systematic historical erasure, followed by explosive mythologization. The real Illuminati disappeared so thoroughly that for 2 centuries, conspiracy theorists have filled the void with fantasies. Weishaupt designed the Illuminati to operate with extreme secrecy. Members used pseudonyms from classical history, and communication occurred through coded letters. Membership was compartmentalized. The order infiltrated Masonic lodges, recruiting members without openly declaring Illuminati affiliation. This parasitic relationship gave the Illuminati cover and recruitment pools. The teachings progressed through degrees. Lower degrees focused on Enlightenment philosophy, while higher degrees revealed political goals, undermining Catholic Church influence, promoting rationalism, and eventually abolishing monarchy in favor of republican government. These were radical ideas in absolutist Bavaria. The downfall came through betrayal. In 1784, a dismissed member reported the Illuminati to authorities. A series of raids followed, culminating in the seizure of documents from a courier struck by lightning. The Bavarian government published the seized documents in 1786 and 1787, exposing the order's structure and membership. Facing persecution, members scrambled to protect themselves. Some publicly renounced their membership, while others destroyed records and ended communications. Weishaupt fled, eventually finding refuge with a sympathetic duke. By 1790, the Illuminati had effectively ceased functioning. Former members, many holding respectable positions, wanted to forget their involvement. Membership lists were destroyed where possible, and letters were burned. Unlike Freemasonry, which continued and preserved its history, the Illuminati had no continuity. When it ended, institutional memory ended with it. By 1800, the Illuminati existed only in government archives and silent memories. Then something unexpected happened. The myth began. Counter-revolutionary writers published books claiming the Illuminati had not been destroyed, but had secretly orchestrated the French Revolution. These claims were speculative, but struck a chord. Throughout the 19th and 20th centuries, the Illuminati became a catch-all conspiracy explanation. The irony is profound. The real Illuminati, a relatively small and short-lived society, erased itself so thoroughly that it became a blank canvas for conspiracy theories. The absence of evidence about survival became, in conspiracy logic, proof of continued existence. Scholars studying the actual Illuminati face a challenge. The organization destroyed documentation when threatened, and it was then mythologized to the point where fantasy overwhelmed fact. The Illuminati erased itself so effectively that it became immortal as a myth, arguably the world's most famous secret society despite having ceased to exist over 200 years ago. Top 6. The Carbonari. In the early 19th century, a secret revolutionary society called the Carbonari spread across Italy and France. The Carbonari organized insurrections against monarchical governments and played significant roles in the revolutions of 1820 to 1821 and 1830 to 1831. Members included future national leaders, intellectuals, military officers, and workers. The society operated through cells called ventes, used elaborate rituals borrowed from Freemasonry, and maintained strict secrecy. At their peak around 1820, the Carbonari may have had 300,000 members in Italy alone. Then, as quickly as they rose, the Carbonari dissolved. By 1840, the organization had effectively ceased to exist. Members moved to other revolutionary movements or withdrew from activism. Unlike most failed movements, the Carbonari left remarkably little documentary evidence. Membership lists were destroyed, and meeting records were burned. Former members, even prominent politicians, rarely discussed their involvement. The society that had terrified European monarchs for 2 decades vanished into obscurity. The carbonari's origins are murky. The most common theory is that the society emerged in southern Italy around 1800 to 1810, possibly founded by French Republicans during Napoleon's occupation. The name and symbolism drew from charcoal burning, a profession practiced in remote areas, metaphorically linking the society to people working hidden from authority. Their goals were initially anti-French, then shifted to anti-Austrian and anti-Bourbon after the conservative monarchy restoration in 1815. The unifying objective was creating constitutional monarchies or republics. The organizational structure was designed for secrecy. Members joined local cells of about 20 people. Each vent operated independently, knowing only its own members. Higher coordination existed, but information flowed upward while decisions flowed downward, preventing authorities from dismantling the entire organization, even if they infiltrated some cells. This cellular structure would later be adopted by communist and anarchist movements. Initiation rituals were elaborate, drawing from Masonic traditions. The rituals created strong bonds and commitment among members. The Carbonari achieved real political impact. In 1820 to 1821, Carbonari-led insurrections forced constitutional concessions from Italian kings, though Austrian military intervention crushed both revolutions. In France, members participated in plots in the 1830 revolution. Young revolutionaries, including Louis Napoleon and Giuseppe Mazzini, were members. However, successes were limited and temporary. Governments infiltrated volontés, arrested leaders, and executed members. By the 1830s, the Carbonari were declining. Revolutionary failures, government repression, and new political movements drew members away. Giuseppe Mazzini founded Young Italy in 1831, offering a more focused nationalist program. The dissolution was gradual but systematic. As Ventes stopped meeting, members destroyed records to protect themselves. Membership lists were burned, and meeting minutes disappeared. Rituals were forgotten as initiates died without passing them on. Former Carbonari who became prominent rarely discussed their membership in detail. This silence was partly self-protection and partly embarrassment. The result is that one of the 19th century's most significant secret societies exists in the historical record, primarily through police files and hostile accounts. We know the Carbonari existed because police arrested thousands, but understanding what they actually believed and how they operated is difficult because the society systematically erased its own documentation. Top 7. The Skopsy. In 18th century Russia, a religious sect emerged that took asceticism to unprecedented extremes. The Skopsy, whose name means the castrated ones, practiced ritual castration as a path to spiritual purity. Founded around 1760 by Kondraty Selivanov, who claimed to be Christ and Tsar Peter III, the sect grew to an estimated 100,000 members by the early 20th century. Skopsy theology held that the biblical fall resulted from sexual intercourse, and that only through removing sexual organs could humans return to purity. Men underwent castration, while women had breasts and sometimes other tissue removed. Despite this radical practice, the Skopsy attracted merchants, peasants, and even nobility. They formed secret communities across Russia, accumulating substantial wealth. Then between 1917 and 1930, the Soviet government systematically destroyed the sect. Members were arrested, exiled to labor camps, or executed. By 1940, the sect had effectively ceased to exist. Remarkably, despite having tens of thousands of members over nearly 2 centuries, the Skopsy left almost no internal documentation. The Skopsy's extreme practices emerged from radical biblical interpretation. Selivanov taught that Adam and Eve in Eden were smooth without genitals, and that sexual organs were the result of the forbidden fruit. To return to paradise required removing these organs. Castration was literal redemption. New members underwent baptism by fire in secret ceremonies. The operation was performed by sect members using razors or knives without anesthesia, often resulting in shock, infection, and death. Those who survived became full members. Despite horrific practices, the Skopsy attracted followers. The sect offered a definitive solution to sexual desire. They created tight-knit communities with strong mutual support. Members helped each other in business and lived frugally, accumulating wealth that attracted new members. The sect's secrecy and persecution created a persecuted minority identity. They lived among the general population, working ordinary jobs while secretly practicing their faith. Meeting houses appeared normal. Castration operations occurred in hidden rooms at night with only initiated members present. This secrecy was necessary because Russian law prohibited castration. Tsarist authorities arrested skopsy leaders multiple times. Selivanov himself was imprisoned and exiled repeatedly before being released to house arrest in St. Petersburg, where he died in 1832. Despite persecution, the sect grew. The decentralized structure made total suppression impossible. The skopsy kept few written records. Theology was transmitted orally. Membership was tracked informally, but apparently not documented centrally. This made it difficult for authorities to identify members and means historians have limited primary sources. What writings existed were carefully guarded and likely destroyed when communities were raided. The Soviet period brought catastrophic persecution. Bolsheviks viewed the skopsy as bizarre superstition incompatible with scientific socialism. NKVD raids in the 1920s and 1930s arrested hundreds. Many died in gulags. Properties were seized and children were placed in state orphanages. By 1940, Soviet authorities declared the skopsy eradicated. The sect's biological peculiarity contributed to its decline. Castrated members could not have children, so the sect depended on conversion. As persecution intensified, recruitment slowed. The skopsy's historical erasure is nearly complete. Russian archives contain police files, but the sect's own documents are almost entirely absent. What we know comes from hostile sources. The sect that practiced the most extreme bodily modification in Christian history vanished so thoroughly that reconstructing their beliefs requires piecing together fragments from sources that viewed them as dangerous lunatics. Top 8. The Thuggy. For allegedly 6 centuries, from approximately 1290 to 1840, a secret society of murderers called the Thuggy operated across India. According to British colonial accounts, the Thuggy were devotees of Kali who ritually strangled travelers as religious sacrifices. They posed as fellow travelers, gained victims' trust, and then killed them with silk scarves. The Thuggy supposedly murdered millions, passing skills from father to son. British authorities, particularly Captain William Sleeman in the 1830s, conducted a campaign to suppress the Thuggy, arresting thousands and claiming to have destroyed the cult by 1840. There is one problem. Modern historians increasingly doubt that the Thuggy, as described, ever existed. Evidence suggests British colonizers conflated various groups of bandits and criminals into a sensationalized death cult narrative that justified colonial expansion. The real question is not whether the Thuggy erased themselves, but whether they existed as an organized secret society at all, or were a colonial invention that erased the complex reality of crime in pre-colonial India. The traditional Thuggy narrative comes almost entirely from British sources, particularly Captain Sleeman's writings. According to Sleeman, the Thuggy were a hereditary secret society dating back centuries. Members trained from youth in strangulation techniques and rituals. They worshipped Kali through ritual murder. They would join traveler groups, journey for days to allay suspicion, and then strangle victims using a rumal, a silk scarf with a knotted coin. Bodies were buried in specific ways and possessions were divided according to ritual rules. Sleeman's suppression campaign in the 1830s allegedly broke the Thuggy. He established informant networks, arrested suspects, and conducted trials. British authorities claimed to have arrested over 3,000 Thuggy, executed hundreds, and imprisoned thousands. By 1840, the British declared the Thuggy eliminated. The campaign was celebrated as a triumph of British justice over Indian barbarism. Critical examination began in the late 20th century. Historians noted problems. First, no pre-British Indian sources mentioned the Thuggy. If millions of travelers had been murdered by an organized cult over 6 centuries, Mughal chronicles or regional histories would have mentioned it. They do not. The first detailed accounts appear only in the 1830s from British sources. Second, many confessions were obtained through torture. Third, the British had strong motives to exaggerate the threat. Modern research suggests what the British called Thuggy were likely various groups: bandits, tribal people engaging in highway robbery, and ordinary criminals. By labeling them Thuggy and attributing centuries of history and religious motivation, the British created a sensationalized narrative that served colonial purposes. Did groups of criminals strangle and rob travelers? Yes. Did a hereditary secret society dedicated to Kali murder millions over 6 centuries? Almost certainly not. The truth is somewhere in between, but exactly where is difficult to determine because the historical record is dominated by British colonial accounts with clear biases. If there were groups resembling the traditional description, they left almost no documentation. Criminals do not keep written records. The British suppression destroyed whatever traditions existed, arrested members were executed or imprisoned, and families were broken up. If the thuggy had oral traditions or ritual knowledge, these were lost when the last generation died in British custody. The real criminals and their actual practices are gone, replaced first by colonial propaganda and then by post-colonial skepticism. The thuggy have been erased so thoroughly that we cannot even be certain they existed to be erased. Top 9. The Black Hand. On June 28, 1914, Gavrilo Princip assassinated Archduke Franz Ferdinand in Sarajevo, triggering World War I. Princip was a member of a secret society called Unification or Death, popularly known as the Black Hand. The organization was founded in 1911 by Serbian military officers with the goal of creating a greater Serbia. The Black Hand operated through cells, used elaborate codes, and recruited young nationalists for terrorist operations. The society had powerful connections within the Serbian government and military. After the assassination, as Austria-Hungary prepared for war, evidence of the Black Hand's involvement emerged. Fearing the organization had become uncontrollable, Serbian authorities moved against it. Between 1914 and 1917, the Black Hand was systematically destroyed. Leaders were arrested and executed, members were purged, and documents were seized and destroyed. By 1918, the Black Hand had ceased to exist. The organization that started World War I was erased by the very government it sought to serve. The Black Hand was founded on May 9, 1911, by a group including Colonel Dragutin Dimitrijević, known as Apis, who headed Serbian military intelligence. The founders were veterans of the 1903 coup that murdered the Serbian royal couple. They believed Serbia's destiny was leading South Slavic peoples out of Austro-Hungarian rule. The organization's constitution outlined a cell-based structure, rituals involving oaths taken over daggers and pistols, and a commitment to use any means, including terrorism. Membership reached several thousand, including army officers, government officials, and students. The Black Hand operated openly in some contexts while conducting terrorism covertly. The Black Hand's most notorious operation was Sarajevo. The organization provided weapons, training, and logistics to Princip and his co-conspirators. Evidence suggests Apis personally approved the operation, though he later claimed he tried calling it off. Whether he genuinely attempted to stop it or claimed so to deflect responsibility is debated. What is certain is that the Black Hand's involvement gave Austria-Hungary justification for war against Serbia. As World War I engulfed Europe, the Black Hand's influence became a liability. The organization had advocated aggressive expansion when Serbia was strong. Now fighting for survival, the Black Hand's continued agitation threatened diplomatic efforts. More critically, Prince Regent Alexander feared the Black Hand as a rival power center. Apis and his associates had overthrown one monarch. They could do it again. In 1916 and 1917, authorities arrested Apis and hundreds of members on charges of plotting to assassinate Alexander. Evidence was thin and likely fabricated, but military courts convicted Apis and his co-defendants. In June 1917, Apis and 2 associates were executed. Hundreds were imprisoned or purged. Black Hand networks were dismantled. Crucially, documents were destroyed. The suppression was systematic. Authorities seized Black Hand records and apparently destroyed most of them. Whether this aimed to eliminate evidence of government complicity in terrorism, prevent a resurrection, or both is unclear. The result was that internal documentation largely disappeared. Surviving members kept quiet after the war. Many had been implicated in terrorism and regicide. Discussing involvement could lead to prosecution. The Black Hand erased itself through state suppression and member silence. An organization powerful enough to start a world war disappeared so thoroughly that many today have never heard of it, even though its actions killed millions and reshaped the 20th century. If these accounts of hidden shadows and erased legacies have changed how you perceive the history books, please subscribe and like the channel. We are unearthing the chronicles they tried to bury. Help us cultivate the truth for the future. The next vault of secrets will be unlocked soon.